Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by MiloTree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the show. This is Jillian Leslie, host of the podcast, founder of MiloTree and Catch My Party. I'm also a business coach and a business translator. I take what's working in blogging today and I break it down so you can use these strategies yourself. I've been hearing people talk about how difficult right now it is to grow social media followers, especially on Instagram and their email list. And I just wanted to do a quick shout out for MiloTree, which is the pop-up app that we built that will grow your most engaged followers. You install it on your blog and it pops up when a visitor shows up and ask them to follow you. And it does work. So if you are struggling, definitely head to MiloTree and check it out. For today's episode, I have Jake Poses on the show. Jake is CEO of Jumprope. For those of you who don't know, Jumprope is a new social media platform where you can share how-to video slideshows really easily. It's both technology, it helps you make these videos really quickly that you can then share on other platforms, and it's a platform in and of itself. The cool thing about Jumprope, again, is the ease of use, but also by creating these, they're called web stories, you can potentially drive extra traffic to your blog. I think you're going to find this interesting. I think by the end of this, you're going to be checking out Jumprope. So without further delay, here is my interview with Jake Poses. Jake, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We actually got on a call yesterday, a Zoom call to record the podcast, and we ended up talking for so long that we ran out of time and had to reschedule it for today, which I think is really funny. So I have to tell you how I discovered Jumprope. So I knew nothing about this. And we do an ongoing coaching group with people who've gone through our programs, and we have these ongoing relationships. And we meet with this group of bloggers who are in all different verticals twice a month. And we show up, and one woman who is a food blogger in the group says, we need to talk about this thing called Jumprope. And she needed to make video. Many food bloggers want video embedded on their recipes. And she discovered this tool where she could make videos easily. And then she was making some videos and then weirdly noticed the traffic on those posts was going up, like shockingly, by fivefold, tenfold. And she said, I want you guys to check this out. So we all downloaded the app and started playing around with it. And I said, you know what? I need to talk to somebody from Jumprope. And I looked in my LinkedIn because I kind of remember that maybe I'd connected to somebody. Turns out I had connected to you, the CEO of Jumprope, because we had both gone to Stanford Business School at different times. And I think you were recommended to me. And serendipitously, we had already been connected. So I reached out to you and I said, hey, Jake, would you come on my podcast? And here you are. That was a very long story.
Thanks for having me. And yeah, I mean, that is very indicative of how creators on Jumprope are discovering us and sharing us in communities that already exist. And that's how we've gotten, tens of thousands of people to create amazing content on the app. So and thanks for taking the time to have me on the podcast.
Yes, so let's talk about, there are kind of different elements to Jumprope. There's a tool for building content, like kind of video tutorials. And then there is a platform, think like Instagram, where your jump ropes can live, but you could also just use the tool and download these files and then share them on social media, put them on your blog. So could you talk to Jumprope, kind of the whole scope of it and how creators, bloggers, creative entrepreneurs can use it?
Absolutely. So, where Jumprope is, we want Jumprope to be, and it's starting to be the place where everyone goes to kind of learn or discover how to do anything. And whether that's a recipe, a craft project, a travel guide, a beauty tutorial, that's our vision for Jumprope. And we now have about 2 million people coming to Jumprope each month. to discuss 2 million unique people coming to Jumprope each month to kind of discover the amazing content that amazing creators are creating. We know that creators don't just want to be on one platform. And we know that therefore helping creators not just create content for Jumprope, but create content for all of the platforms that they want to be on is going to make Jumprope a great place for creators. And we learned this sort of very early in the journey, that if we could solve this problem for creators of I just want to create once and I want to get all of the content, I want stories, I want a horizontal video, I want a vertical video, I want a pin for Pinterest, I want something that's HTML that I can put on my blog. And if we could build something where you create once and in just a matter of clicks can sort of share to whatever platforms you want to be on, doesn't share by default, you pick when and where you want to share, that would be a really, really powerful tool for the creator community and encourage creators to start putting content on Jumprope as a platform where they could also get discovered, build a new audience, and also drive some traffic off to their blog, etc.
So if I use the tool to create a tutorial, and I just created my first Jumprope where I shared, for you podcast listeners, my 9 tips for growing your business in 2021, and one of them is get your face on video. Remember that? So you could do that on Jumprope. Okay, so if I create using the tool, does my tutorial, Jumprope, end up on the Jumprope platform? Do I have to do anything to push it there? How does that work?
No, so when you create, and so what we've built in Jumprope is we've really rethought the process of creating video, because we know that video is really intimidating and hard, and the open-ended format, the complexity of the tools, the equipment you need is a huge barrier. And so the first thing we did was to totally rethought the concept of video editing. We went away from this open-ended timeline format and sort of used a lot of the principles of the simplicity of creation of stories. And so you create Jumprope's in these little approachable cards that are steps, and those map to kind of the steps of your recipe, the steps of your craft project, etc. And the Jumprope format, whenever you create on Jumprope, it lives on the app, and it lives in that step-by-step format. What we're then able to do is, because you're creating in this structured format, is we're able to then, the app is able to programmatically create you a horizontal video or vertical video, stories, etc., that then you can download to your phone. And we're actually in the process of launching a desktop version for Macs at least, and then share to, again, whatever platforms you want to share to, whether that's sharing a vertical thing in IGTV, whether that's sharing a horizontal video to YouTube, or putting that horizontal video in kind of your Mediavine or AdThrive player to sort of have that help you monetize on your blog, or sharing images to Pinterest. That's kind of how bloggers and creators are using Jumprope today.
Now, what I really like about this is that you've kind of reduced my crayon box. So when I think about, and this is actually, again, was the use case for this food blogger who loves making recipes and doesn't want to spend her time learning like Adobe Final Cut Pro, that she just wants to like quickly figure out how to make a tutorial, so that therefore there are only a few things really I can do in creating my Jumprope. So I can put up a video, I can put up a static image, and then I have a little, like a box where I can write text, and you will put like step 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And each one, by the way, can only be at most a minute of video that you upload. So I've learned
a minute per step,
per card.
The total video can be as long as you want.
Right. So just know that if in fact you're like what I did, was I created little videos of less than a minute and then uploaded each one and then wrote a little description. And so in a weird way, by taking all of like my 64 box crayon and shrinking it down to like 8 crayons, it made me create faster. Remember, I talk about this concept called B- work, which is do not shoot for A-level work, B- work, it's above average, and you can get stuff done. So I feel like you could get these Jumpropes created really quickly on the platform, and then you have all this content to share. So I want to say thank you, because it's like this easy way to really create lots of cool content. And one last thing, David and I, my husband and partner, and I talk about this all the time. you want your content front and center, not all the bells and whistles. And I feel like Jumprope is a great way to do that.
Absolutely. Just to give you kind of what we hear from the, again, tens of thousands of creators, like your community creating on the app, is several things. One is we often hear you Jumprope took what would have taken me a day, maybe longer, and enabled me to do that in an hour, maybe less. That's one thing. Two is the vast majority of people on Jumprope creators using Jumprope were not creating video-based content other than maybe some sort of stray stuff in Instagram stories before using Jumprope, because we've made that process now approachable to people who have, again, none of those skills. The last thing I'd say is one way some people are getting started on Jumprope is you can actually create a Jumprope video without actually taking any video footage. So you may have some process photos of a craft project, a bunch of photos from a tour of a certain city, or a bunch of sort of step photos of different steps of a recipe. You can easily, upload those into Jumprope, and actually, if you have that shot, in a matter of minutes, create your first Jumprope, your first piece of content on the app. And so what I often say to people who are even kind of intimidated to get started with something new is just take a bunch of photos that you have or little videos you have on your camera roll, import them into Jumprope. 5 minutes later, you'll get a sense of, is Jumprope something that is right for you, that you think is going to help you grow your audience and build your business?
I think that's terrific. Okay, now here's this other piece that I want to dig into. Again, the person who told us about Jumprope, food blogger, was creating jump ropes because it was easy, and then all of a sudden noticed that she was getting traffic, and that you are talking to Google. Again, like, nobody knows what's in the Google algorithm, but you have found, as did she, that your jump ropes tend to show up in Google searches.
Yeah, so let me sort of step back on this. So we've actually, and again, we've sort of said this publicly, this on our blog, and Google said this publicly. We've partnered with Google for the past year or two to work on basically building the Jumprope viewing experience into a format called web stories that Google's really promoting and excited about, and recently really started promoting on Google Feeds, or what they call Google Discover, which globally reaches about 1 billion people a day. And so we've rebuilt the Jumprope consumption experience, this kind of step-by-step unique experience of consuming a recipe or a craft project, into something that is sort of Google favorable and sort of Google understands. What we're then seeing is, and I think as you mentioned, is that we enable bloggers, we enable bloggers to put links to several things. One is you can sell products through Jumprope. So you can link to any product that you have and put in whatever affiliate code or et cetera on any Jumprope. Like, we're making Jumprope's very shoppable. The second thing you can do is, if there's a place where you need your blog post to find more information about a recipe, or a travel guide to find more information about a destination, you can link to that within you can link to a blog post within each Jumprope. You also can link to your whole overall homepage of your blog within your Jumprope profile. And what we're seeing is that creators who are doing a really great job creating detailed, helpful content on Jumprope, so a full recipe, a full travel guide, a full beauty tutorial, are then seeing a whole new audience discover them via the Jumprope platform. And some of that Jumprope audience is coming through sort of Google Discover, where they're discovering Jumpropes, and then clicking through to creators' blogs. And they're telling us they're building a whole new audience. That audience is highly engaged. Time on site of that audience is much higher than other traffic. And so we're excited about that.
That's amazing. And one thing we talked about yesterday is that the more time you spend fleshing out your Jumprope, making it a really good experience, people like that, and then you're rewarded for that, and therefore your links probably matter more. Like, you can't just kind of come onto Jumprope, put like, hey, this is a recipe, and then just link over to your blog and think that that's going to get you traffic. It's really about making the entire experience really full and rich.
Totally. And that's exactly right. And that what we see is that content that isn't complete, right? Recipe, like we want Jumprope, and what we're seeing is the content that is really the content that is getting, hundreds of thousands of views, and the most views is content that is complete. It's a recipe that has all of the details you need to complete the recipe, including kind of the ingredients and how much of them you need. It's, the craft project has all of the supplies laid out in each of the steps in detail. That's the content that's actually getting viewed on Jumprope. And so what's then happening is someone is like, oh my God, this content is so helpful. I love this. You've taught me how to make this amazing, keto brownie recipe. And then those people are saying, oh, I want to learn more about Not Entirely Average or Olive and Mango. And they're then saying, I want to connect with this person. I want to learn more about them. And they're clicking through to your blog to discover more about what you have. They're spending more time on your Jumprope profile. And so what we're seeing is creators who are doing a great job creating like really helpful, detailed, informative Jumpropes are then reaching a whole new audience that is then following them and engaging with them, not just on Jumprope, but on their blog, on Instagram, on YouTube, etc.
So do you feel like this is, we talked about this, the beginnings of new platforms, there's a little bit of like a gold rush idea, like get in early and start creating content. And then for example, for Catch My Party, we got onto Pinterest very early. Well, we've grown our followers very organically. In the beginning, it was very easy to grow followers. So right now we have like 1.5 million followers. If we were starting today, that would be more difficult. And do you feel like this is the time? Like, I'm excited to have you on the show because it's like, hey, this might be a really nice opportunity for bloggers to start on this new platform. And what is I know it's your platform. You might be a little biased, but what's your thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just, instead of saying what I think, I'll tell you what we're hearing from the community. And what we're hearing from the community is a bunch of people have said things like, I missed the ball on Instagram. I regretted it. I got on too late. And I feel like Jumprope is going to be the next big platform and I'm investing in it. And so this is, obviously we want that. It's our baby. We want people to do that, but we're not telling people to do that. People are doing it because they see the momentum of the platform and they're just like, this makes sense. This format that you've built and the way you've done this, and you've built something specifically for people who want to learn something new, a recipe, a craft project, a travel guide. We're not trying to be all things to all people. Jumprope is not a place where you post photos of your night out last night. We built something specifically for learning how to do things. And I think what we're seeing out of both creators and viewers, and they're like, yes, this solves a bunch of things that I've been frustrated about the way other platforms work in the format. And they want to be on this journey with us.
Okay, what's the sweet spot? So for example, can you give me your tips on how to create a Jumprope that will succeed? For example, number of cards, or I don't know what you call them, or how much detail, how much detail, what fonts, like what verticals, all of that stuff, so I can have success.
Absolutely. So I think what we're seeing is the sweet spot. What I would say is that when you're the creator and you know what's best, and do the amount of detail that you think is right for your audience. There is no kind of like specific right answer, right? If you're teaching a knife skill, that may only be 3 or 4 steps that you need to explain that, but that might be a really, really terrific Jumprope, right? Because it doesn't need to be 15 steps. What we are seeing though is that for most things like recipes, craft projects, beauty tutorials, travel guides, things that are kind of in the 15 to 20 card range are doing the best. And that's because what we're finding is viewers on Jumprope, this is not TikTok. This is not a place to get a really quick show something whiz bang done. Our viewers want to know the details. They want to know, what should this look like when it's done being mixed? Or exactly what is the tip for threading this piece of yarn through this hard area in a craft project? And our viewers want and are interested in seeing and hearing about that detail. And so we're finding the Jumpropes that are a bit more detailed are getting the highest engagement. So I would aim for about 15 steps. In terms of what verticals, we've talked about a bunch of these. Our biggest vertical is food. So recipe content is doing really, really well. Other things that are doing terrifically well are travel guides, beauty tutorials, fashion
Can you
guides.
explain what is a travel guide?
So travel guide could be anything from the best things to do with kids in San Diego to if you're going to go on this hike, here are the detailed instructions for like look out for this marker before you're going to turn. Here are the things you might want to pack in advance. You know, there's no water for the next 3 miles, so make sure you account for that, et cetera. So I think city guides, neighborhood guides are doing really well, as are these like sort of more specific guides to how to explore and tips for kind of a specific destination. DIY and home stuff across the board is doing really well. Again, there's sort of lots and lots of niches in there. Those are the verticals that are sort of standing out so far. But I would say, like, you know, we've seen people be success in like social media tips. We've seen success in people like helping people with photography tips, and so even like magic tricks. So, you know, I would say the biggest things are, you know, some of the biggest things why people turn to this content, you know, on the internet. But I think like, don't let that limit what you think you can do with Jumprope. And really, there's a lot of content that's sort of tutorial, so teaching you how to do something. And then a lot of content that falls more into kind of a list, right? Like, you know, if you think about like a city guide, a neighborhood guide, you know, here are the, you know, 10 interesting outdoor hikes within an hour of New York City. It's really more of a listicle, and we're seeing that that do really well. One interesting thing we're seeing as well is we enable you to link from one Jumprope to another Jumprope. So once you've created a bunch of content, you know, sort of a woman named Sarah from a blog called The Food Lover's Life has created a whole set of tutorials around like sourdough bread baking techniques, which was obviously a big 2020 trend. And so she's made a bunch of individual jump ropes of different sourdough techniques, but then she's created a jump rope that is kind of a list of those. And so she then lists off each of the techniques and then links to each of them within each of those cards.
That's so meta. So she's making a jump rope of her jump ropes and linking to each
Yep.
jump rope.
Exactly. And so it's just in back to sort of what you said of how do I do less work and get more legs out of the same amount of content, is that's one, right? Obviously she's not having to take out her camera again. It probably takes her all of a couple of minutes in the Jumprope app to make that sort of aggregate. And then we're also seeing other people come in, and this is a la Pinterest, and aggregate other people's jump ropes, right? So they say, here are 10 interesting keto recipes.
Like a roundup of jump ropes.
Exactly. And then again, this is if you go look at what, you know, trends on, if you go look at like, you know, a lot of, you know, media companies, they're doing, you know, these roundups of 28 recipes for this, or best 10, you know, restaurants to eat at in Chicago. And so in a lot of ways, what we're seeing succeed on Jumprope and what we've done is we're enabling creators to create content that like historically only media companies could do in expensive studios in sort of places like New York City and LA. And now, you know, anyone can do that from their kitchen counter, bathroom mirror, gym, garage. And frankly, you don't even have to buy a single piece of equipment. We can show you on the app how to make a tripod out of like a box or a step stool and like a coffee table book, and you put your iPhone on top of it. And so the really gratifying thing to me is just how many creators we've enabled to sort of unlock sharing so much more knowledge and passion than they were before they had Jumprope.
I have two comments. One is I love that it's all about being can-do and, you know, like figuring out how to make a tripod or figuring stuff out. And I would say that as bloggers and online entrepreneurs, you know yourself that all you're doing is kind of putting things together and figuring it out. And so I love that spirit that you don't need to have a ton of money or a full studio or whatever, and you can hack it together, because we are such believers in that. And secondly, this is a personal question. As a founder of this app, are you surprised by how your users are using the app, the tools and the content and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think I believe, and this is sort of part of my philosophy in sort of building a product, is experiment and put things out there and let your users help you and tell you what they like and what they don't like. And so we're surprised every day with interesting things people create on Jumprope. And I'm like, I never would have imagined people using Jumprope for kind of, magic was a good case. I was like, this is fascinating. I never thought like Jumprope would be a place to kind of show and teach a magic trick, a magic trick, for example. And then another interesting thing we see is like, certain features we build, it's like, wow, like we thought that mattered to people, but we didn't realize how much that mattered to people. I'll give you a good example. We used to, make, for kind of the ingredients or product photos, we used to like you had to take them yourself. And we saw that a lot of people would just write limes or write cilantro and they wouldn't actually like put a photo in. And so we're like, what if we actually like have a library of them? And you can just pick, because people probably don't need to take their own photo of a lime. And by building that feature, we saw a massive increase in just the number of images associated with products. And it was just sort of great to see this sort of spark of intuition on our side turned into like really improving the experience for creators. And again, what we're constantly thinking about is how do we do things like that make it basically enable you as the creator to create something you're really proud of and excited to put out there in the world and is actually really helpful to people in way less time. And I think that the creators who've been on the app for a while know that like we're constantly improving things and it is far, far from perfect today. We want your feedback, and the app is only as good as it is today because we've gotten amazing feedback from creators, and we welcome and want and ask for that feedback as you as a creator today are helping us make this better for both you in the future and other people like you in the future.
Okay, I love that you said that, because one thing that we talk a lot about is this idea that you co-create with your users, with your visitors. So you have a hypothesis. Hey, if we give people a library of lemons, maybe they'll use them. And then you throw it out there and you test it. And my hunch is you might be testing stuff kind of raw, a little rough around the edges.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know. But this is exactly, by the way, for bloggers, for people like, and if you look at my 9 tips for 2021, it's all about test. Test cheaply, test fast, and test often. And by the way, assume your test is going to fail, so that when you find those gems, you then dig into those gems, but you don't take it personally when it fails, because you're just putting it out there. You're seeing how your audience responds, and then you're building off of it. So if you think we've finished our thing, our ebook, our course, our app, and it's perfect, oh, you are so in the wrong direction. So that's why I say put it out faster than, where you're a little embarrassed, but then go let people run with it, and you will be surprised at how people use stuff and how they build stuff. And I love you going like, whoa, magic. I never would have thought of that. And so that's where this is one of the things I think is so amazing about building businesses on the internet. You get to get really close to your audience, and then you get to co-create together.
Absolutely. And I think that, and this is our philosophy at Jumprope, and I sort of, again, as you said, I'd encourage this for anyone building a business. If a reasonable percent of your tests aren't failing, you're not testing things that are ambitious and can and can really break through and make the experience better. And I love what you said around like, don't take it personally. Like expect a good percentage of your tests to fail. I mean, I was lucky enough to be part of, before Jumprope, building what was a very successful business. And in that environment, and again, we built something from no revenue to 100 million of revenue. The majority of the tests we've ran failed, but some of them succeed magically. And you sort of see this stair-step growth when you have this test and this breakthrough that succeeds. And so as an entrepreneur, I ascribe to that philosophy. You'll see that in the way, if you use Jumprope, in the way we're developing Jumprope, and I encourage others to adopt that philosophy.
And how do you ask for feedback? Talk about how you are constantly talking to your community.
Yeah, I believe that the best way to ask for feedback is to do it in a lot of different ways, and to do it in the way that works best for the people giving the feedback. And what I mean by that is we don't have a sort of a one size fits all. It's not like fill out this one form if you have feedback. We do a variety of different things. I'll give you a sense of them. One is we are constantly getting on the phone and having sort of one-on-one conversations with people.
Love that. I say this all the time. Wait, I have to say, do stuff that doesn't scale. You cannot get on the phone with 2 million people who are using Jumprope or watching, but you could get on the phone with 5 people, 3 people. Okay, so keep going. Sorry.
So one is one-on-ones. The second is small groups. And I find that there is sometimes this interesting, in the same way like a brainstorm, you bring people together. There's sort of, I think, a thing of like a feedback brainstorm where someone will say something and someone's like, yeah, you know what, that's been bothering me too. Or like, I think this can be better. And let me tell you why that matters for my use case and my business. And so I find that sometimes we do things in small groups, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You get these sort of magical moments of connection that make the feedback richer. The third thing we do is we really mine. So we have like a chat in the app. So if you have questions or feedback, and we really mine that for insights, right? Like, what are people constantly asking questions about? Like, what are people confused about? Okay, if we're getting a lot of questions and confusion about something, let's rethink that. And how do we make that better? Because probably if 5 people are asking a day, probably means that like 50 people really have that question, maybe more than that. Let's think about how we can explain that better in the experience. We do big surveys every so often. I think, again, surveys are nice because they get people that are a little bit less vocal to also communicate what they're thinking. And so, emailing a survey, again, most people have an email list, emailing a quick, I encourage you to keep it short and really think like 5 questions and really think really critically about like, what are you getting out of each of those questions? We constantly, sort of similar to customer support, we're looking at our reviews. So on the and if you're using Jumprope, I thank you for submitting a review on the App Store or the Google Play Store. Reading those is actually really rich sense of feedback. So kind of like it's all of the above. And then what we're doing as a team is it's about like the synthesis of like, we can't address everyone's feedback immediately. So which things are kind of one-offs for very specific use cases that we just like shouldn't prioritize? And which things are we hearing that are like, this is important and affecting a lot of people. Let's really prioritize working on that.
Now let's talk just how to get stuff found. Like, how do hashtags work on Jumprope?
Absolutely. How hashtags work on Jumprope is hashtags are part of how, like on other social platforms, you'll get your content discovered. When you can do it at any point, but at the end of sort of when you're about ready to publish a Jumprope, we give you a few suggested hashtags. You can see the hashtags you've used in the past, and you can add new, fresh hashtags. And then that does several things. One is for our sort of feed of like sort of curate, like, similar to Pinterest or Instagram or Twitter, we curate a feed for each viewer on the platform based on their interests, right? Using machine learning. And so those hashtags help us say, okay, this viewer may be interested in crochet. This content is crochet. We probably want to show it to that user. And then, like other platforms, you can search for and follow hashtags. And so if you search for crochet and your Jumprope is tagged in crochet, it will show up.
And I can add hashtags because when I got to the end, I saw there was a collection of them that I could choose from, but I could add my own.
You can hit a button that says add your own. And it gives you just a free form text box to add your own.
Okay, because like I need to do that and be like the entrepreneur or the online business person. Okay, well that's good to know. And let's talk about this one last thing. Do people come to Jumprope to actually open up Jumprope on their phone while they are making a recipe? Or do people come to Jumprope kind of like, I'm one of those people, as I shared with you, like I love cooking shows. They calm me down and they give me so much, happiness. But the truth is, I don't think I've ever made a recipe from watching a cooking show. So how are people really interacting and using the platform?
Yeah, so the reality is in both ways. And I actually sort of say that there are 3 reasons why people are coming to Jumprope. One is pure entertainment. It's they're not trying to make this recipe. They're not trying to go to this city, but they're just curious and interested in what you're doing. Although what we do find in that case is people still want the people viewing content on Jumprope are interested in the details. They find the details interested. They're passionate and interested in these topics. The second is inspiration, which might be, I'm going to cook dinner tonight. I have a bunch of chicken in my refrigerator. What do I want to make with this chicken? And they might go look at a bunch of chicken recipes to decide what they're going to make for dinner. And then that third use case is it's actually now dinner time and I don't know how to make, this fajitas recipe. And so I need to sort of follow along step by step, how many pounds of chicken do I need? How finely do I chop it, et cetera? And they'll just leave the Jumprope app open for, 45 minutes on their counter. And one of the magical things about the Jumprope format is that person who just wants to be entertained is probably going to tap through the Jumprope quite fast. The person who actually is cooking is going to put Jumprope into what we call autoplay off mode, which means the steps will just loop until they're ready to go on to the next step. And they'll obviously.
You mean like what you can freeze a step?
Yeah, you can freeze each step. The app has two modes, right? It has a mode of just a la Instagram stories. When a story ends, carry on to the next one, and you can sort of tap and move even faster than that. And it has a mode of, obviously I can't chop as fast as the 8x sped up chopping in this video, but I still can understand how I need to chop. So I'm going to put this in autoplay off mode and just have that chopping loop on my screen, and then I'll tap when I've finished chopping my chicken. And this is what we've done with Jumprope is and this is sort of in the beginning of it, we said, like, what are the people's frustrations with using videos and using blog posts and using other formats to cook and to craft and to travel and to sort of do beauty routines and fitness routines. And we incorporated those frustrations into building a format that, again, viewers are loving and tell us is a lot better.
Yeah, well, like for us, like we're very technical in our family, and yet when we make recipes, we print them out on the print, and we have a physical piece of paper, just because it doesn't feel easy to be watching your video on YouTube and having to cook along with it.
It's not easy, right? And so we've solved that problem.
Okay, what are your plans going forward? What are you building into Jumprope? What could people be looking forward to?
Yeah, and so one thing we've learned, again, in getting very close to creators over the past year or two of building Jumprope is that creators love today that we've enabled them to do something easier and faster than they could without Jumprope. But they would love us even more if we could help them make more money. And our biggest priority in 2021 is helping creators make more money. We already have creators making money on Jumprope a bunch of different ways. One is, again, as I said, you can link to any product and include your affiliate code. And so we have creators who have sold thousands of dollars worth of all sorts of different products on the app. We have people using Jumprope to create sponsored content, and they're getting paid both for kind of that distribution that they're using to export that content to Instagram or YouTube or Pinterest, as well as for views that they're getting. People are starting to sort of pitch sponsored Jumpropes to brands in sort of a sponsored content type way. So we already have people making money on the app. Over the coming months, we're doing several things. One is we're making that experience of including products and merchandising and selling things within a Jumprope much better. Better experience to add the products, have them be more integrated into your Jumprope, and which we think is going to drive higher conversion to kind of sales of those kind of products. We're going to give people a chance to have a shop on Jumprope, so to list all of the products that they want to that they sort of think are exciting, and we see this having a lot of people have this on their blogs as well. Second thing we're working through, and we're working with Google on this as well, is an ad format that lets people monetize their content directly on Jumprope. And so we don't have a specific date for when we're going to launch this, but think about it as similar to YouTube, right? You put your content on YouTube, and Jumprope will insert respectful ads within it, and you'll be able to sort of make money on Jumprope. Again, this is coming. I don't have I can't give you a specific date that this is going to launch. We're also thirdly experimenting with kind of a tipping model. What we've heard from viewers is that they really appreciate when they're able to use Jumprope to make a fajitas recipe or learn to explore a new city, and that they want to contribute back to the creator and support the creator, a la sort of what's happening on sort of Patreon, et cetera. And so we're thinking about testing a tipping model where viewers can tip a creator if they've provided something useful. What I will say is sort of all of this monetization stuff is because what we've heard from viewers is they want complete content that they can follow along to. It's almost certainly that, like, you know, what's going to be able to be monetized on the Jumprope platform is content that is detailed, complete, helpful. So if you're interested in monetizing on the Jumprope platform, I'd really encourage you to start creating content that is complete and people can follow along to on our platform, as that's what we're going to enable creators to monetize.
What I really like about Jumprope, there are two things. One, the ease with which you can create content and create content fast and have it for all of these different outlets. And two, this idea that it's like a combination of Pinterest, because Pinterest is about inspiring ideas and sparking creativity and doing things, and Jumprope is doing that. It's got an element of Instagram because it's like there's like this element of stories and scrolling through stuff, but you've got this ability to add links to things so that people can have a fuller experience. If you're a blogger, it's very difficult on Instagram, for example, to drive people off the platform. But here, if you've got more information, you can drive people off the platform. Oh, and because you've got this relationship with Google, and Google seems to really like what you're putting out there, there are these opportunities for traffic.
That is all correct.
Okay, Jake, if people want to reach out to you and have questions or feedback or pitch you product ideas for Jumprope, how can they do that?
Yeah, so I would say, like, feel free to reach out in any of these channels, both sort of to us as a company or me personally. So we're Let's Jumprope on Instagram, or you can sort of download the app, and if you have the app, chat us in the app if you have a question, et cetera. If you want to contact me personally, I'm at Jake Poses on Instagram, at Jake Poses on Twitter, or you can email me directly at jake@jumprope.com.
Oh, I love it. Well, Jake, I feel like this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Absolutely.
As to quote one of my favorite movies. And honestly, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you guys liked that episode. I found two things interesting. One is the technology, using the video maker that Jumprope provides. Whenever I can find a tool to make video quickly, I always want to check it out. And two, to try making jump ropes to see if they can drive traffic to your site. Whenever I hear something can drive traffic, my ears always perk up. Will you do me one of two favors? One, would you go to iTunes and rate this podcast and hopefully give it 5 stars and a review? Because this way people can find it and I can continue to get great guests. And or would you join my Facebook group, which is called Become a Blogger Genius. And if you go to Facebook and you search for Blogger Genius, you will find the group. And I would love you to be a part of it because it continues the conversation. I get to really talk to you. And I'm in there all the time. So again, Facebook, Blogger Genius, come join me over there. And I will see you here again next week.